Okay, so welcome to the first edition of the For Harriet Editorial. This is exciting. I'm Kim, the founder and editor-in-chief of For Harriet, and go around and introduce themselves. Let's go.
I'll go first. My name is Michelle Jackson. I am currently senior editor. It's so weird saying that. At For Harriet, I've been working with the site for about a year now. I started off as an intern, then I was a contributor, then I came on as an editorial assistant. Now I'm an editor. It's a pretty boss job. Get to work with cool people. I'm excited to be here.
I'll go
My name.
next. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead. Go for it.
My name is Deonna Anderson. I've been working with For Harriet for like a week now, which is great. I'm excited to be on the team. I'm working as a junior editor, working very closely with Michelle and Kim. I'm excited to be here. I think For Harriet is great, and thanks for tuning in.
I'll go next. My name is Joneka Percenti. I've been working with For Harriet as an editorial assistant for a week now. I'm super excited about it, and I'm also a student at UNC Charlotte.
Well, I'm Alexis Jackson. I'm working as an editorial assistant for Harriet. I've been doing it for about a week and a half now. I started off as an intern a couple of years ago, and now I'm really excited to be on board as an editorial assistant.
Oh, okay. Did everybody go?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the first thing that I really wanted to talk about was our favorite pieces that we published this week. My favorites. Well, actually, I don't want to go first. Michelle, why don't you go first? What was your favorite piece this week?
My favorite piece was by Cassiana Boom, and it was titled "On the Princess of North Sudan and the Audacity of White Entitlement." Um, this was something that I saw like late last week on Twitter, and then Kim also brought it to my attention. It's the story of like a white man, because there are always stories about white men, who decided his daughter was like, "Oh, Daddy, will I ever be a real princess?" And then he was like, "Yeah." So he went and found some like unclaimed territory between Egypt and Sudan and claimed it as his own. And then made his daughter a princess, and now Disney is turning it into a movie. And it's so ridiculous, and I loved Cassiana's writing. I'm generally a fan of her writing anyways, but in this piece, it was like the perfect level of like snark and like you gotta be kidding me, as well as like really insightful kind of commentary about white entitlement and white privilege and the understanding of like a lot of times people don't realize their actions don't exist in a vacuum. And so what he's doing, he thinks he's doing this nice little thing for his daughter, but what he's really doing is like reminding a whole bunch of colonized peoples their history of being colonized and brutalized by like white people who don't belong there. And so she did such a good job with that piece. And just making like I don't know, it was brilliant, and I'm a fan of like the snark and the commentary when it's very like level and one doesn't overpower the other. This is readable, but it was also like very intelligently written, and I dug it.
All right. Deanna, what's your favorite this week?
My favorite piece this week was "It's Time to Be Honest About Same-Sex Intimate Partner Violence" by C. Imani Williams. And that was one of my favorite pieces this week because I feel like interpartner violence is not one of the issues that we really hear about in the LGBT community at all. So I think this shines a light on an issue that many people may not be aware of. Like, marriage is not the only issue that people in the LGBT community face. And I think Imani was able to also include statistics in her piece, so it's not just anecdotal. It actually has some facts in there and shows that it doesn't just happen to like one specific couple. So it starts off as a it starts off talking about the WNBA stars Brittany Gardner and Glory Johnson, who you all probably heard about. They were suspended for some games because of assault charges. And then she just kind of breaks out and goes into how prevalent it is in same-sex relationships. So I thought that was really great.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one, and I love when people can bring, for Harriet strives to be really inclusive and representative of all Black women, which some people find to be incredibly offensive. So I'm really glad that we got to touch on that. Alexis?
Okay, so I really enjoyed the myth of the welfare queen, how classism has worked against Black women, by Anna Gibson. And I really liked the piece because I think it did a really good job of breaking down why the stereotype exists from Ronald Reagan broadcasting the story of Linda Taylor to slavery, to education, to gentrification. And so I think articles like this are really important because they show you how America constantly tried to limit Black women and constantly perpetrate these stereotypes so much. I think it's really interesting to see how the stereotypes have changed from the Jezebel to the Mammy and the Sapphire and the welfare queen. It just seems like America morphs these stereotypes of Black women to suit what they want to push on Black women. And I think the most important thing that she wrote in that article was that it's not our responsibility as Black women to defend our humanity, and that these things will only change when society as a whole re-examines why we have these stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and say that that was my favorite piece this week as well. And I think one of the things that For Harriet strives to do is to offer counter narratives, right? So stereotypes about Black women. I think Anna, who is consistently a really great writer, did a great job of adding her voice to the conversation. She was really knowledgeable in the writing, and it was really accessible and relatable. It was a really, really good piece, and it was a very popular piece. So I love when that happens. All right. Who's next? Joneka?
Oh, me. Yeah, so the piece I really enjoyed from this week was by Raja, and it was titled, "We Must Support Black Women's Fight for a Fair Living Wage." And I really enjoyed this because I've been hearing about this movement, the Fight for 15, for a while now. Getting a lot of buzz in different areas. I think in Seattle and parts in California are trying to fight for the minimum wage to be increased to $15. And so often, like in other activist movements, Black women are forgotten. So that's why I really appreciated this piece, because Raja made mention that, you can't forget that Black women are also core to this movement and core in fighting for this $15 per hour. And the one experience she shared that I really liked was by a woman named Quena, who was working in the fast food department for 20 years and is still receiving $7.25. And it just shows light on the issue, and it shows why it's so important and how Black women need to be essential in that fight as
well. Right. So a little bit of background on that one is I originally, when she pitched the piece, I was just like, this is interesting. And then I saw some conversation about it on Twitter, and I started reading up on the Fight for 15. And then I realized, no, this is actually really interesting. So I think I told Michelle to go back and say, oh, no, sorry. Like, actually, we want this piece. I think that's what happened. But I'm really glad that we did, because she did a wonderful, really good job. And it really was a good piece. Okay, so let's talk about numbers. I'm not going to talk about like specific numbers, but I'm always really interested in what does really well on the site and what doesn't. And sometimes I know, right? Like, I think Michelle and I have been doing long enough. Well, sometimes like something is going to be big, and then sometimes it kind of comes out of nowhere. So Michelle's pick of the week on Disney's The Princess of North Sudan and the title was really big this week. I wonder if you have any thoughts about why that is. I had thoughts, but I'm interested in what y'all think. Why it was so big.
I think anytime, I think number one, our audience, most of our audience, let me correct that, most of our audience really does appreciate when we constructively critique whiteness. And a lot of times, sometimes people don't understand the difference between constructively critiquing it and like us being reverse racist, which is not a thing.
Right.
But so I think that one was partially because of that. And I think also like the Disney aspect, so it has like a cultural, like a pop cultural like aspect to it that people also really enjoy. And I think also sometimes just like really clear, evocative, good writing, like quality writing is also what people connect to. So I think like a little bit of all of those things really contributed to why it did well.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
along with that, I'll add that like just the shock factor almost, because when I read it, I was just like the audacity for someone to like go to this unmarked territory and try and claim it. I was just like shocked by it, so I think that might also contribute to why it did so popular. Just like, did he really do that? You know?
yeah. So right after the North Sudan article, the second most read piece on For Harriet this week was 11 Reasons Why Michelle Obama Has Been the Perfect First Lady, which is not surprising to me, right? So listen, Obama, like it doesn't matter. Like she's there's certain like huge black women figures that are very polarizing. But I think there's like pretty much universal support and recognition that Michelle Obama is the shit and like black women like stand for her. So I was not surprised by that at all.
Yeah, I feel like most people think that Michelle Obama can do no wrong, and I definitely agree with that. Like she is someone like she hasn't done anything wrong since she has been like in the White House, which I think is awesome. Yeah.
I think, like, and what is there really to even hate on Michelle Obama about? Like, she is mom, like, she's really fit, like, she says, like, she's very, despite the fact that, like, conservatives always are trying to attack her, like, the positions that she takes in public are very, like, you can't get against, like, healthy eating and exercise and, like, looking cute. Like, you just can't. So, but there are a couple of pieces that did not do so well this week, and there are a lot of reasons that go into that. One of the pieces that didn't do so well this week was about grief and loss mourning, and I'm always interested in like what went. You know what? Actually, I decided it might not be a good idea to talk about the pieces that didn't go wrong. So we don't need to. Yeah, I actually just realized that like this actually might not be the best idea. So we're gonna like go ahead and like move on past that.
Okay.
I am interested in what on the site what do you think we missed on the site this week? Like what would you have liked to seen us post about?
Did anyone see the Submissive Wife show on TLC?
No, what's that about?
Yeah, there was a show called like The Guide to Being a Submissive Wife on TLC where a bunch of white women were going around talking about how to be a submissive wife and how to fix failed marriages by being a submissive wife. And so I think it would be really interesting to see a black woman's perspective on that, whether she does consider herself a submissive wife or if she didn't. I just think that it would be very interesting to see it coming from a black woman's perspective.
Wow.
You know what? This is the reason why we need to be like continually like pitching articles and like pieces because that will be big. Like listen, when it comes to like gender roles and that stuff, like people love to debate that. So yeah. We didn't get to apparently the charges were dropped against Ray Rice this week.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
That's crazy. Um, but anyways, I want to go ahead and move on and talk about Beyonce. Okay.
Yay!
No, so this is the reason why I wanted to talk about Beyonce, because I mentioned with regards to Michelle Obama, there are certain black women figures that, you know, all black women can come together and just like pour out our love for them, right? And like Michelle Obama is one, like I'd say like Felicia Rashad, you know, like iconic people like that. Beyonce is an icon, but so many black women hate Beyonce. Like, I think me and Michelle have had correspondence about this before, about the fact that whenever there is a post on Beyonce and for Harriet, like, black women be coming out to say, like, call her off, just the nastiness, right? Like, Michelle, like, come on.
It's so awful. It's like Beyonce and Nicki Minaj. Like, if you mention those two names, and like it could literally not, the piece could not be about them, but we mention their names, and then all the comments, like hundreds of comments on this post, are about like Beyonce is dumb, or Beyonce is this, or Beyonce is that. It's like, did you read the article though? Because the article was about like gender roles, but
Right.
like, attacking Beyonce right now. So yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon to watch happen. That always, like, I always just have to brace myself whenever we're gonna post a piece about like any of those two figures, because I know it's gonna get live in the comments.
So the most recent thing I think that we can't walk and want to, right? Like that was that's the last essay that mentioned Beyonce. It wasn't about Beyonce, it mentioned Beyonce, and Beyonce was the header image. And people were saying, y'all need to stop having Beyonce stands write articles.
No.
This is, and I'm just like, but this is actually like a critique of like patriarchy and gender roles, right? Like that's what cultural criticism is, right? So you use popular conversations to talk about larger structural and societal ills, but like, listen, people be losing their minds.
Why is that though? What is it about Beyonce?
When it comes to Beyonce, I don't, you know, listen, I wish that I knew, right? So like, this of course wasn't an essay. You know, video that we posted this week was Feeling Myself with Nicki Minaj and Beyonce, right? And I am at a point now as the editor where I don't care. I know anytime that we post anything that features Beyonce, that people are going to come out and say, like, she's in the Illuminati, she's a hoe, she's a terrible mother, she's bringing black women out. I don't care. I don't care. This is my space, and we're going to dedicate some time to Beyonce. Like, when, like, it doesn't, I've just, like, completely tuned it out now. It's so, like, why? Like, why? Why? If you don't like Beyonce and you're watching now, I would love to hear your articulated thoughts about
I would love it too.
why. Because people, like, there are people who have emailed me personally and said, like, we are sacrificing, you know, the credibility of this space by continually uplifting Beyonce. Like, for real. People are dead serious about it. So I'm just like, but I don't know. I don't get it.
I think it's interesting because, like you said, the stories are not about Beyonce.
Well, listen, some posts are about Beyonce, right? Like, if you're posting about, like, a performance, like, that's Beyonce. But if you're posting cultural criticism about women's sexuality, right, or about motherhood, or about agency, people can't see past. It's one of those things that I'm still really trying to unpack, and, like, I don't want to just be dismissive of it, right? Mm-hmm. But I am a little bit dismissive of it because I enjoy Beyonce, and, like, I'm going to approve, like, what I like.
I also feel like sometimes the people who say, like, oh, we stand so hard for Beyonce, they're only ever looking for the post that we put about Beyonce. Because they'll be like, you guys post about Beyonce so much, and I'll, like, go through and I'm like, we might have mentioned her 2 or 3 times in the last month and a half.
Yeah. But you know what? This is another thing, and Michelle will see this too because she has access to the Facebook page. People do that too. So yesterday, they do that about lots of things. So yeah, I enrolled in New York City, and it was of a white man holding a sign that said "Stand up for Black women." They posted, "Your agenda is so clear for Harriet. You keep pushing interracial love as a panacea for the problems that plague Black women, and you're doing it. And I bet there were Black men there who were holding up signs too, and you." And that's like, actually, this was a really dope photo, right?
Yeah.
And I know enough because I've been doing this long enough. I knew somebody was gonna go there, but I still said this photo is super dope, so we're gonna post it, right? But like, people see what they want to see when they're consuming media, and they always think that we have some sort of like agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other reason why I thought doing the roundtable would be really interesting is because for a long time, people, I don't know, like, if Michelle, I don't know if you've seen these comments, right? But like on Facebook, I used to get it a lot. On Twitter, I get it a lot. People would tweet me. People would send me emails saying there is no way for Harriet is run by Black people. Like this, like. No, seriously, they say like this progressive, like feminist agenda is architected by the white man, and I'm like, but no, like it's
What?
no, it's definitely run by Black women, like owned by, like, honestly, like one of the only spaces like on the internet like of this size, like actually like owned and like run every day by Black people actually. So yeah, we all Black. We in there.
What do you think, we're like ghosts? Like how? What? Like.
I think it's
Yeah.
really funny because it's like it's that like people like question like our Blackness, or you have like on the other side. I think there's people who honestly think like For Harriet is run by a woman named Harriet.
Yeah.
That she posts every single thing, and like that's it. And like so it's really interesting because Kim has done a really good job of being like very transparent about what For Harriet is for and what it is, and like what the goal is of the site. And people just like breeze right past that, and like you said, when consuming media will see what they want to see. And that's not to discredit the thousands of people who get us and ride for us and like go in for us in comments when we can't always be on top of the moderation. But it's also really interesting to see the other people who are like creating their whole own little narrative about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
I get emails every day that say, "Hi, Harriet." I'm just like, but are you even paying attention though? Because
At the end of your post, it says Kimberly is the founder. So,
like, but you're not even trying though. So yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's the type of engagement that the kind of passing engagement that people have with blogs and stuff. But it's really super interesting. Okay, so we have a lot of new people. I just hired a whole bunch of people so that I can live a normal life again. Um, and so it's also in your thoughts about the community, things that have surprised you about For Harriet. Yeah, I want to know.
can you repeat the question? Because you kind of broke up for me.
Oh, okay. So I'm really interested in, for all the new people, things that have surprised you about the community, things that you were expecting, or things that you find to be really interesting about For Harriet working here, and like seeing how people engage with For Harriet.
This didn't really surprise me because I was reading For Harriet before, but I like the diversity of people that write for Harriet, the contributors, and like all the different types of stories that they want to write about. I think it's awesome. Like being able to be one of the editors and look at the stuff that we have coming in.
One thing I found that was really nice is like with my past experiences with like blogging and stuff, it's always like, oh, don't read the comments, or you're kind of nervous about the feedback that you'll get. But so far, it's just been so encouraging and awesome. Like I did one post about Black women artists to support, and I didn't really expect to get a lot of emails, but I started getting emails like, oh, check out this artist. Her work is awesome. It's so cool. And people were just like sending in stuff. It was so sweet and super nice. It's been really great. It's only been a week, and like it's just been really awesome so far.
I think one thing that I like exploring is working with the culture in Shine. I think a lot of people really, I guess, focus on the main For Harriet site, but it's really cool to be working on the culture in Shine and just talking about different things that are created by Black women and different Black women in the media and the news. I think that's something that I really enjoyed this past week.
I actually want to piggyback on that, for lack of a better term. One of the first pieces that I helped edit was by Anna Gibson, and it was about 5 authors you should be reading. And I feel like a lot of those people I hadn't read, so I thought it was really cool to like share with the For Harriet community like different writers that they should be reading.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have new voices. So one of the things that I always worry about when it was just me and Mel is I know that I have a very specific worldview. I have very specific interests. Certain things catch my eye. And I always worry that I'll miss things that are interesting, that are compelling, that are going to speak to a specific segment of the audience because it just didn't speak to me. So it was really important for me, as soon as I could afford it, to bring more people on board, to have new voices and new ideas to bounce things off of. And everybody has done a really great job of jumping right on in there. And, like, this is my life, so I am obsessive about certain things. And so I really appreciate the flexibility in helping us to really become, the preeminent destination for Black women on the internet. So thank you guys. So I don't know if there are any, I don't think that there are not really enough people that ask questions, but I don't know. So listen, we're going to be moving. You guys have any ideas about topics you'd like to touch on next week, or about things that we should start exploring?
I think for me, sometimes like I'll see something that is happening like on a national level, but because it's not explicitly about Black women, I always have it's challenging for me to know how do we talk about this? So like what's happening with the Duggar family right now is really interesting, and how they've built, this I don't even know what to call it, but like their family is so about like being pious and having like this very strict rules for sexuality, and then to come out and say like, oh, our oldest son is an accused like sexual abuser, and like that's a white family, but there's also lots of Black people in the world who have very strict, very conservative views around sexuality, and like people don't realize that fear of sexuality is also very harmful. And so like those kind of things I'm trying to get better at, of like this is still relevant to us,
Right.
even though it's not explicit, like it's not a Black face attached to it.
Mm-hmm. I think it becomes possible to explore those things that are not specifically Black women's issues when you have more people on board, honestly. Because I remember when it was just me, and then when it's just me and you, like you have to really say like, I don't have time to get to that. So now I think we can definitely do that. And I was thinking about that too, because even tying that back into like Eddie Long, for example, you know what I'm saying? Like how he was caught being, like preying on like boys in his congregation, right? I think that people that we deem to be religious leaders are often espousing, like anti-gay rhetoric, homophobia, trans misogyny, right? But in their own house, they are committing like grievous, like sexual, like perversions. So I'm really interested in that. So I do hope that we'll get around to that. Any other?
Going off that, something that I was really interested in is the whole Black church sex hashtag and the discussing you all did yesterday. I think I'm really interested in seeing that continue on for Harriet. I think it's really helpful for Black women who have grown up in the church. I just think seeing more perspectives on that topic will be really interesting in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think also kind of tying everything that you all said in, like making sure that we are like kind of intersectional and make like, of course, being a Black woman has an impact on us, but also like how does being of a certain religion or a certain sexual orientation or if I think it would be great to like see more trans voices in our on our site and stuff like that. I just think, I don't know, I really love intersectionality. So I would like to explore that more.
Yeah. I would love to see more trans voices on our site, and it's actually not enough to just say, like, I would love so. Absolutely do think that making a concerted effort to reach out to trans women, and hopefully we can woo them and get them to share their voices on the site. Any other ideas about what we'd like to cover next? I'm trying to think. Was there something I thought was interesting this week? I can't think of it. I don't know. I see so many. We post a lot of content. For her, it gets through a lot of content every week. And it wasn't until somebody pointed this out to me, like recently, like, you're posting a lot of stuff every single day. Like, actually, yeah. So sometimes it gets a little jumbled in my head. But anyways, I think we can go ahead and wrap up. Any, like, last thoughts or parting thoughts about the mission or where we're going to be going? What I am actually really interested in doing now is incorporating more video. Like, that's where I've been putting a lot of my time outside of the written, is reaching out to video content creators and working with them to produce original videos for the site, because I think that's really cool and interesting. And, I like to do things that other people are not doing. So I spend a lot of time reaching out to people and trying to talk them down. Actually, no. No, just kidding. Like, we want to pay everybody what they're worth. Just kidding. I didn't. Okay. All right. All right. So that is going to be it. That wraps up the first edition of the For Harriet Editorial Roundtable, where we talk about what we do at the site and, what we're trying to accomplish in publishing all this content every day. Thank you so much, Michelle, Deonna, Joneka, and Alexis. And we will see you guys again soon.